And so I've learned a lot through all of these experiences, but I think it's important, I think it's like really cool that we want to hear these stories and we want to share these stories. And so what I'm going to be going through is my journey of showing up fully and showing up honestly, and that process. I'm going to be honest as possible. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to only talk about what makes me look good, because that's what's important to me. I think it's important to be real and to just accept yourself as you are. I am the opposite of formal. I like things to be really, really chill. So please, like, ask questions if you want. I want this to be really chill. So I would love to get this chat popping. So if you guys don't mind putting in the chat where you're from, so we can see like where people are from, I think that would be really cool, just to see where we all are at. I know a lot of people are coming in from Chicago. I think we got some New York in here, New Jersey. Yes, dope. Yeah, so if you guys end up sharing anything or anything like that, please tag me. I'll definitely reshare. Yes, a lot of Chicago. All right, cool. Linda, so we can go to the next slide. Cool. So I don't like rules. I feel like not that I'm a rule breaker, but we got Bolingbrook. I love it, Perry. I'm not big on rules. I feel like rules are meant to be like bent, not quite broken, but bent. So these are my kind requests. If you could have your camera on, I think it would be nice. I can't see all of you, but I think it makes things a little bit more engaging when we can see each other's faces. And I come from the live event space, so I'm used to talking to a room. I like being amongst people. Keep an open mind. I'm going to try my best to watch my language. My mom is on this call, and I think I got some Malayalis in here, and she was like, Ishadi Nani. She was like praying for me, like to make sure I do a good job and stuff like that. So my mom does not like that I swear, so I'm going to try my best to not swear. But this is my story. I can only speak on my specific story. If I say anything to offend you, please reach out to me. If I ever misspeak on anything, please reach out to me. I'm always willing to learn and hear people out. I definitely want to keep this chat popping. I'd love to, if you guys hear something that you resonate with, if you vibe with it, please hype me up. I'm always loving being hyped up as well. So I feel like as a professional, you're a person first, right? And so I'm going to talk about, my career. And I love that, like, with Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, what this event is, it has heritage. So a big part of my story is my heritage. It's my story. And so, I honestly wasn't even aware of this month until 2 years ago when King Marie did This Is What Asian Looks Like, and my husband was a DJ. And then last year we were working on a project, and I put it on my calendar for this month because I was like, I ended up doing so many things this month, and I'm so grateful to be honored. But I don't know if y'all have heard about this month before, like the past couple of years. But this is definitely really cool that we are being honored and we are being asked to speak and share. So half of this presentation is going to be about who I am, and the other half is going to be about my professional life and who I am as a professional. And I think it's important for us to recognize and realize and remember that we are people first. And so you can go to the next slide, Linda. If y'all know my tagline, it's y'all ready. So we are going to get into it. So next slide. So my name is Shireen. Shireen means sweet. And my last name is Manimala. It is a place in Kerala, India. And people from Kerala, India are referred to as Malayali. And so that's where it is on a map. And I struggled with my name growing up. It was always mispronounced. And so it took me some time to accept it, appreciate it. And so, of course, being a outspoken Indian girl, I had to make a video about why I didn't change my last name. And so I have that on YouTube. And so that was a couple years ago. Definitely some comments on there. I've had to like resist from replying to. But it's been a process and a journey, even like in that simple identifier of my name. And so we'll go a little bit into who I am on the next slide. All right, so I identify as an Indian American Malayali woman. I feel like it's important for us to like acknowledge these identities if you feel called to. I recognize that we all have so much more in common, right? And so I think when we can use these identifiers to help tell our story, we should. When it helps us create community, it helps us with representation, but it shouldn't be divisive. Like it shouldn't divide us. I also identify as a wife, daughter, sister. I am a hype coach. I'm a Brown creative. I'm an artist manager, a producer, and a community leader. And I think also all of these identities, I feel, especially like the Indian American Malayali woman, they haven't been acknowledged like growing up, right? And so we've all seen how that can affect us. And so that is why I have been proudly using those identifiers because, growing up, I didn't feel connected to those identities. So we're gonna go into how it started on the next slide. So those are my parents. Typical Indian arranged marriage. They met 1 month later, they got married. They moved to Gujarat, then they moved to Delhi. Then my mom came to America. She first lived with her siblings. She came sponsored by her sister, who got a visa through marrying a US citizen that came here on a student visa. So I want to acknowledge my privilege, right? So I am here through this journey. And I know everyone that maybe either on this call or, Asian Americans in this country, they did not have that same story of how they came to this country. And so I acknowledge that. My dad actually came up to me the other day, was like, I feel like it actually probably was harder for you guys because I came here, I knew they were going to treat me differently. When you were born here and people were treating you differently. And so I thought that was really interesting that my dad recently had that epiphany or that thought. So basically my mom came first and then my dad came, and that photo on the left is when my dad actually came. I think that's at the airport. So when my dad came, he already had a degree from India, but America, they don't acknowledge degrees, I guess, from India. And so he had to go to school again. He had to support his family and he had to work. My mom got a certificate to be a histologist. And my dad ended up working for ComEd as an electrical engineer for 35 years. And my mom for that a long time as well as a histologist. And so my parents definitely middle class. We were privileged to have access to education, and I had a great relationship growing up, and I still have a great relationship with my parents. And so I recognize that as well as a privilege. I came from a very safe home, and I'm very, very thankful for it. So then this is how it started, and then I pulled through. So I was born. I think it's important for us to acknowledge family dynamics, right? Just like I can't speak on the Indian American experience or the Malayali experience. I can only speak for Shireen's experience, right? So my family dynamic is I have two older sisters, right? And I had two older vocal sisters. I remember this story from when I was less than 7 years old, and my sister was yelling at my dad and was like, "Dad, I got my fucking period." And I was like, oh my gosh, those are the kinds of things I heard growing up, right? So my sisters are amazing people, but we grew up a little differently, right? We were very vocal, and it was a little bit I think out of the norm for Indian kids. This picture has my Ammachi, my grandmother. That's another thing about immigrants. Oftentimes your grandparents live with you. But I was always a goofy kid. I was the youngest for almost 7 years. I was low-key a little bit of a pathological liar. I told my after school teacher I went to India over the weekend. I had like a big imagination. And then there were 6 of us. If you go to the next slide, my brother's here, Luke Manimala. Wave to the people, Luke. So this is my complete family. Me and my brother were in the home together the longest. My brother and my oldest sister have 17 years apart. I feel like, those are very interesting things to know about, like every individual, like how your family is laid out, like how, like the order sometimes. Like I have the oldest person in our family is my sister, right? And so she was like our second mother. And so I had made a note that like I brought a photo of my brother at show and tell when he was born. Like I was so hyped when my little brother was born, and me and my brother are still really close. And so I'm very blessed to have like a really amazing family. And so a little bit after my brother was born, we moved to Naperville. And if you go to the next slide, Linda, I was searching for like an awkward, ugly photo of what like in that age time frame, but I didn't have a lot of time to look for photos. But Amy's in the room, so that's a photo of my cousin Amy, who's my best friend. But I'm curious, if you're familiar with Naperville, what is like the first word that you think of when you think of Naperville? Give me one word. Rib Fest. All right, dope. Anybody else?
Not diverse at all.
Yes, Amber. Amber is from Naperville. I love that y'all are just unmuting. This is amazing. Anybody else?
I'm from Bolingbrook. I would say probably uncultured.
Yes. Okay. So the first word that I think of when I think of Naperville is white. I went from a pretty diverse school to an all-white school. I was the only person of color in most of my classrooms. The only people that were like of South Asian descent were like much more like they had come to America just recently. When you're like that kind of kid, like basically an ABCD, right? Like an American born confused Daisy, if you don't know, you're just a hater when it comes to that kind of stuff. You're trying to figure out like who you are and stuff like that. And I always gravitated towards the other people of color because I didn't feel welcome in my all white school. But I just figured out who my people were. I never had like a lot of friends when I was a kid. Linda's also lived in Naperville. So I didn't have a lot of friends. I like was really like goofy and like myself at home, but I was like a different person when I went to school until like I got close with people and whatnot. If you go to the next slide, Linda. I don't know if you guys know about this game. There was like this PC game called Spider-Man Cartoon Maker, and I was like so sick at this. Like I wish I had these videos saved. Like I was really into computers. I was really into videos. I was like kind of a dork. I would like narrate these videos, and it was my thing. Like me and my brother always worked on them, and I actually have on my to-do list for 2021 to digitize all of our VHSs because we have like music videos and dance videos and all this stuff from our childhood. And I just think about like how creative I was, and it's so interesting like how the education system works. And that's something that I like thought about as like a future thing, is like how the traditional education system, there's not like enough space for the creative kid. And that was something that like I just struggled with, and I really struggled in like traditional education. And so if you go to the next slide, as I got older, I started connecting with my identity more. When I went to junior high, I actually started asking my dad to bring me to like Kananaya events. I think I have some Kananaya people here. So I've done a whole series on my show about this, but basically the Kananaya community is a church community, and I knew that we were a part of it, but we never went to things. So I asked my dad to bring me to things. I started making Indian friends in high school. I started doing dances. I started wearing Indian clothes. That's actually my husband on the right. I feel like we're maybe less than 20 years old when we were just friends. And then if you go to the next slide, I don't know if everyone knows about this, but the people that are on here that know me, I graduated high school, and by the time I graduated from high school, I had ran away a couple times. I was a notorious skipping class, hiding in my closet kind of girl. But I was also a social butterfly. And then I got arrested when I was 17 years old. Actually, I think it is a funny story. Is I'm going to share this later, but I was a wedding planner, and I had had to ask a wedding crasher to leave, and I followed them to the door, and I had to go outside and take a breather. It was my first time and last time ever having to do that. And I told a cop, and he's like, "Are you sure you don't want to be a cop?" And I told him the whole story about getting arrested and how it changed my life. And he was like, "See, the system did you right." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. It did." I was scared shitless after I got arrested. And by the time I graduated, I had gone through 3 jobs. I worked at Hallmark, Sears, and Circuit City. I've always loved to work. I'm a really good worker. I'm not a really good student. I failed 3 classes, but I was actually just looking at my high school transcript. I had 10 A's, and they were in poetry, PE, web design, health, and U.S. history. So it's just interesting how we're good at things, right? And I think especially as Asians, we don't have the resources, right, to know what our kids can do that are good at PE, web design, health, and U.S. history. You know what I mean? So I just feel like my parents only had what they had, and so they were encouraging me to. They actually honestly encouraged me to do anything, but what they knew about was obviously engineering, science type of related jobs, and yeah, it is a narrow definition of success, but I also think it's accessibility and knowing what else is out there and what we can do. And so the next slide, I am going to finally start talking about my career and whatnot. So I finally got it together. I ended up going to COD for 2 years. I had a boyfriend in New York because that's what most kids come on. I was on some other shit, you guys. Sometimes I'm just what was I doing? But anyways, my dad honestly made the right decision to not support me to go to college in New York. I ended up going to Columbia. I started marketing communications and specialized in PR. And my event planning class with Jane was my favorite class ever. And Jane is actually on this call, and she is such a huge networker. That's the one thing that she taught me, how important it is to network and how important it is to maintain relationships. And so I'm still I graduated in 2009. I still have a relationship with Jane. And then Circuit City was a huge part of my life. I worked there from 17 to 21. And I had a few internships while I was in college. Time Out Chicago, which used to be a magazine, and they put on events, but now they have those time out markets. Chicago Humanities Festival, which is a big theater company, or they do a big humanities theater type of event. Eclipse Theater Company. And then I did semester in LA, planning on moving to LA and doing entertainment marketing. And so through all these different experiences, through all these different spaces, I'm usually the only brown person, honestly. And I've had to just navigate it. And oftentimes I would just go with the flow and be quiet and it felt like whenever I had a really good idea and was quiet, someone else would have that idea, right? And I think a lot of us Asian Americans and I think just people of color sometimes can struggle with that, really seeing that our ideas are good, right? Because we're so used to thinking that someone else has the better idea or someone else knows better than you. And it might be because we weren't really encouraged sometimes, or we didn't always know what our gifts were. And so that was something that I worked through when I started college and internships and whatnot. And so my first job out of school was in the CPG industry. Linda, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So CPG stands for Consumer Packaged Goods. So I worked in CPG for 8 years, which is crazy. My first job out of school, I called on Walmart stores in Las Vegas. It's crazy. They like sent this direct to campus program, all these like young kids to cities to work by themselves with like company cars. It was like such a nice job. But like I learned so much being in Walmart every single day. One. Two, I was selling things like Mamwich and Chef Boyardee and canned products and frozen products that a lot of us Asian Americans were not raised on, right? And so I was having to learn all of this product information, and then I had to learn how to sell. I had to talk to people and realize that I was offering them something that they needed, and selling wasn't sleazy, and it didn't have to be so forced, and it was just about the conversation. And so I did that for 2.5 years. I was in Vegas, and then I went to Dallas, and then I moved back home, and I was at their Naperville office as a sales analyst for 3 years. And that just is mind-boggling that I was a sales analyst for 3 years. Like I was looking at Excel for 3 years. And so my Excel skills are bomb. And so I appreciate that. Like I appreciate that time. Sometimes because, I'm in my mid-30s, I have these moments where I'm like, why did I waste so much time at that job? And the thing is like, we can't go back in time. So what's the point in doing that? I'm just really grateful for all of these experiences because it's literally shaped me into this person. This person that you are seeing right now is because of all these experiences. And so I appreciate them all. I actually was just like waiting for them to move from Naperville to the city, and they finally did to Merchandise Mart, and I was offered to stay on. But I didn't like my job. I was doing something that like definitely was not my purpose, to be looking at Excel all day long. And so if you're familiar with the CPG industry, to go into brand management, you need an MBA. And I actually don't have an MBA, but I was recruited to be an assistant brand manager for Carl Buddig. And they are a family-owned company from Homewood, Illinois. And I don't know, I think I saw someone from Buddig jump on. If someone's here, please type in the chat. But it was just like such a cool experience to finally you kind of use like more of my traditional marketing experience. And so I was assistant brand manager for both Buddig and Old Wisconsin. I saw how all these products were made. I saw everything that went into like creating a brand and supporting a brand. Yes, all of this was so useful, and it was all part of my purpose. And then I got promoted to be brand manager. We acquired a barbecue company, and so now I was like in charge of like marketing, and I was like, what's going on? Like, why do they trust me to do this? And it's like that imposter syndrome, thinking that we're not qualified, that we can't handle something, right? And I'm gonna tell you, y'all, like I am super comfortable presenting in front of an all-white audience because of this job, because I did that for 2.5 years. I was the youngest usually in the room. I was oftentimes the one of two people of color, and I really got like experience in working directly with CEO owners and really understanding like a family business and how important a family business is. And they really like help shape this confident person that I am right now, because they believed in me and they gave me an opportunity to really like excel my career. This job, these 2.5 years of my career, even though I didn't like connect so closely to the brands because I didn't consume them, I got so much experience, so much exposure, and just like really great opportunities. So in tandem, while I was working in CPG, actually when I was first at ConAgra, I started getting into event planning. If you go to the next slide, Linda, I feel like I've lived many lives. It's so interesting. So in tandem, my husband 6 years ago decided to be a DJ full time. And so I was like, Jane, I love her. She told me I was good at event planning. She gave me an A. I loved that class. I need to try this. And so I did what Jane encouraged me to do, is network, right? I reached out to a bunch of event planners. I was like, I want to learn. And I took an apprenticeship while I had a full-time job. And these were some like really amazing moments in my life. I got married. I planned my whole wedding in New Orleans. It was a destination wedding. And it was just an important part of my life, because it was the one time I was surrounded by like my people on a regular basis. The wedding industry overall is very white, but and I consider humans in general, everyone, like my people, right? But what I'm saying is, like, I was around Indian people very often, and so that was really interesting because that wasn't the like best space for me. Oh, great! There's other wedding planners here, and so I experienced a lot of just like interesting moments working in wedding planning. Sorry, the like speaker thingies is going off. I was really challenged as a woman in leadership. I, especially among like, Indian uncles, they're getting asked to please sit down. No, we're actually going to be doing it this way. And so that was like a really interesting part of that experience of interacting with like, different generations, like, and a little bit of like power dynamics. And I knew, even when I quit my job 3 years ago to do wedding planning full time, that I knew that it wasn't going to be the like end game. I knew that I wasn't like put on earth to be a wedding planner, but I needed something to make me like finally take the risk and do this for myself. And so I finally got my first out of state gig was 3 years ago, and I'd already taken up all my vacation. And so I had the bride book me a week trip in Houston. And so I had to quit my job, and I forced myself to quit my job. And so, so I ended up doing wedding planning from 2015 to 2019. And I ended up doing one wedding last year for a friend. But if you go to the next slide, there's a quick video. So this is like goals for me was to have one of my, just, if you could just play it. I knew I could retire as a wedding planner when this happened. Will it work, Linda? My groom crowd surfed.
Are you able to hear?
Okay, cool. It's all right. It's no big deal. So my groom crowd surfed. It was like a 900-person wedding in Navy Pier, and my groom crowd surfed. I was like, and so that kind of tells you a little bit of who I am, right? Like that kind of stuff really like juices me up. And the fact that I convinced this groom to do it, I was like, yes. Music and this kind of energy is like my space. That's where I flourish. So if you go to the next slide, while I was wedding planning, I started reaching out and started networking and started really like tapping into the relationships that I had like nurtured, started going to events to meet people. And I was able to, in 2018, I like managed the talent. I was a talent liaison basically for a stage for Mambi. And then I did some events with Live Nation. And so I knew that the event space was where I needed to be. Still diverse. The music space is diverse. It's definitely more white, obviously, but I'm usually the only Asian, definitely usually the only Indian in that space. And so it's like navigating that space and being really grateful and knowing how important it is that I'm there. So there's representation, right? But then also like navigating, when people are trusting your opinion, right? And feeling that tension. And then the branded event space, similar, being, the only, usually brown person, oftentimes. In Nike, definitely, Nike's very diverse, but I did some stuff with Hostess, planning their tour in 2019. Nike, I was in the Virgil Abloh space, which was really, really cool. That was like probably some of like my most favorite experiences of producing all the music events in the Nike Lab space. We had Virgil Abloh in there, Common, Travis Scott. I was a part of all of those events. I produced everything for the Chicago Marathon in there, Lollapalooza. We had a Nike seating event. All Star was like my biggest last event last year. And that in itself was a very crazy experience. I had started working the day after I got back from India and was working nonstop for 2 weeks and was not sleeping well. And that was right before the pandemic. That was February 2020. And that was honestly a little bit of a wake-up call of how important it is for us to take care of ourselves. And how important, if you like are not taking care of yourself, like me, I should have taken a few days off and slept, right? Because jet lag is real. That like, that caused me so much anxiety. And then that led to like trauma later on, where I was questioning my abilities as a producer. And if you've like been in a space where I've produced, I know how to create experiences. And so that was a really like important part of my story, because like I still get anxiety thinking about events, especially with this pandemic, right? We're like getting back into it. I'm planning a concert next month. And so, working through all of that has really been interesting. And I've been trying to be as vocal and honest about it, because I don't think there's a lot of examples of that. And I want to be able to like, if I can, create that space. And then if any of you were in, I think it was Terminal 1, I was managing that Uber Comfort space over in O'Hare. And then if we go to the next slide, yes, June 27th, using my voice. So I have a platform called Upside Down Smiley. I wasn't always this confident. I wasn't always comfortable in my skin, but through this whole journey, I have really been working through it and really trying to address the things that have been challenging. I've been resistant to call myself an artist. And so I think a lot of us can feel that resistance if you're not like a traditional artist. And so sometimes we sit in jobs that we don't like, right? And I identify myself as a creative, I identify myself as an artist. And so you'll see on my platform, I address mental health, I address the tough stuff. I had a video on abuse. I have many series of videos with like my parents and my brother-in-law, and then I have a series on the anti-Blackness in the South Asian community. I did a Kananaya series on practicing endogamy and the people experiencing pressures in our community. All of these things have not been easy, but they've been important to me. Even this project in the bottom right corner, I've been working on for a year, and it's going to be releasing soon, and it's called The Wife Project. The Instagram is already created, so you can definitely start following it. And so even though I'm passionate about all these things, it's not always easy. And so if you are working through anything and you are feeling, this pressure or anxiety about something, putting something out into the world, know that that's normal. Trust me, it's normal. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, but I still get nervous about things like this. The Wife Project is something really special. I shared this image that I took with my husband, and kind of just shared about this idea of being a wife, and how many of us that are married feel like we need to act a certain way, we need to change who we are. And so I brought together with Christina Wilborn, who is another Asian American Pacific Islander that you should know. We created this group of wives, and we're telling the stories of these wives. And so I'm very grateful for, the Upside Down Smiley show, the platform. The emoji Upside Down Smiley, when it came out, I just feel like it was like me. Like, it was just like goofy, chill. I don't know what you guys think of when you use that emoji, but like, I just think of just like silly, and just makes me think of like how I feel oftentimes. And so what's cool, because of what I've created, I've been able to do, cool brand partnerships. So Linda, if you don't mind going to the next slide. I've worked with, personally myself, with a bunch of different brands. Probably the biggest one that you might be familiar with in Chicago is Mindy's Hot Chocolate, or Mindy's Hot Chocolate makes these edibles with Cresco. But a lot of like small, brands, South Asian, some of these are South Asian. I'm really big on like curly hair, so I've like partnered with a Chicago brand called Curl Mix. And so all of these things actually probably good. It's a good mix of like them approaching me and me asking them. And so that's one thing that like being forward, right? And asking for what you want. That's something I had to like learn. That's not something that's always natural for all of us. Especially when you are in spaces that you don't feel like maybe you're fully valued or your ideas are important. And so I know like a lot of us, are constantly working through that. And so that's something that I have gotten more comfortable at. Now, I wouldn't say I'm like super comfortable with it, but it's definitely a practice. And so if you go to the next slide, is the upside down smiley sari pants. I'm working on this project right now. I started working on it for myself using my mom's saris and my old saris. Last year, I started working on sourcing production and the material, and then I realized it was not sustainable for the price point that people wanted that. And so last week I started my first private client. I have my first private design client. So now it's going to be a custom piece, and I'm going to, through my testing period this year, I'm going to probably narrow it down to 3 different designs. And then someone can either send me their sari or we can do it in person, and we create it based on these 3 designs, and then we customize it to like make it your style. And so what's really cool about these pants is like the ability to wear something that's so beautiful. Oftentimes there's like a story behind it, and you can wear it more than that one time, because oftentimes you just wear the sari one time. So yeah, I'm really excited about this project. And then my most precious client and is my husband. I think he's still on here. He's actually prepping for a prom. I think the prom starts soon. DJ Illis Do It All, if you're not following him. I have been working with him for about a few years. I'm working with him for a really long time, obviously. We've been together for 11 years. We've been married for almost 5 years. I've always been passionate about his artistry. I've always cared about his brand. And so formally, I've been working as his manager for a couple years. And, he's been on North Coast, Wicker Park Fest. We've done so many different brand partnerships over these past few years. And, many of these things came through relationships, or they saw him perform at a wedding even. Or, we've just been really good about like staying in contact with people that we meet through the wedding industry, or just like, I've always been really big on going to events in Chicago and supporting other curators and supporting other creatives. And so all of these opportunities have come to us in different ways. And I'm so grateful that we've been able to work together. Last year we launched his website. My brother made his website, and even being able to like pay my brother his rate that he wanted. Being able to support each other's gifts is really important to me, and to be able to, just be able to do what we can to like push you towards your like full purpose is all that matters to me. And then we also launched merch, so that photo is from our merch shoot. And so his goal and our goal this year is to just get him on festival stages. And so we've already been working on that process and contacting and in communication. And so in conjunction, we got Illis and Perry. And so Illis and Perry are a duo that started working together last February with All Star. They've done 13 projects in the past year. In the past year, we've already worked out with these brands. And so this week they are dropping a music video. So this timing is really nice because now I can just hype them up too. All of you should be following them. They're amazing artists. They're amazing people, first and foremost, honestly. And this week we're dropping their music video. Next week they're dropping their debut album. These are two DJs that were basically out of work for almost a year that used the time to create. And super proud of my husband's, he's fused his culture into his artistry for a really long time. And so now it's like his way of having an original piece of work where we have Indian vibes. We got Malayalam chants on these tracks. And I was a part of the production team. This is going to be my first production credit in a music video that's dropping on Thursday. And we finally have a team, and I'm not, being the solo entrepreneur, and it feels really good, and we're really excited. So June 27th is this big concert that we are hosting. It's the Hype concert. And so these two are performers, and so we knew that we had to have a show set up and ready to go. And so those tickets are already available on IllistonPerry.com. And what's really exciting is in the next couple months, I will be able to add Tesla to that list, which is really exciting. And so if you go to the next slide, creating community and being a community leader is very important to me. I don't think it was intentional. It just kind of happened that way. I started Mandala in 2018-ish with my brother and some other homies. We wanted to create a space where we felt like it was for us. We belonged, we were welcomed. I've been to a lot of events and in Chicago, and I don't think it's still like this now, but back a few years ago, there was a lot of cool kids club vibes. And I never wanted any of my events, anything that I produced, to feel like that. So we felt like it was right for us to create a space for South Asians first. And so that second photo are all the artists that were involved in the Mandala South Asian Experience event. Second photo is just vibes. I call myself a vibe curator. I remember there was a moment where I looked at my brother and I low-key had a little bit of tears in my eyes, and I was like, yo, we did this. We made this happen. We brought South Asians together, and they feel like they can be on stage and they can share their culture, and it's cool. And then I was asked to join Malayalis for Social Justice, who used to be formerly known as Malayalis for Black Lives Matter. I didn't feel like it was for me because I haven't been super connected to my identity as a Malayali, but I gave a shit. There was a bunch of people that gave a shit about stuff, and so those are my people, so I needed to be there. And so definitely check them out. There's a lot of cool things. I did an interview with 3 Malayali women that are married or going to be married to Black men, and they share their stories. A lot of really interesting content that we've created there, and it's about empowering our community. And not only speaking to our community, but I'm really thankful that we've been able to kind of normalize this word Malayali. I don't think I was really using that word before 2019. And so even that experience has been really cool. And last but not least, I am a hype coach. You're probably like, what is a hype coach, right? So I work with creatives and entrepreneurs that are ready to show up fully, show up honestly, and help them strategize a plan to make shit happen. I've always been this person. I've always been super supportive. I've always pushed my people. And so I figured it makes more sense to just do this right, and really be able to reach more people. And have that accountability, because I know how important that accountability is. I have a coach. I actually have a mentor, and he's on the call. And that's actually a whole other thing. I finally have a mentor at 34 years old. I didn't even think I was worthy of having a mentor. And so I am just so grateful to be able to do that for other people, because I know how important it is to have someone that you can come to have someone that looks like you, or someone that you can relate to. And so why I do a million things is for these people. In the next slide, my parents. This is a quote from my dad that we actually created for Malayalis for Social Justice. My parents, my nieces and nephews, my siblings, the next generation. I want not even just brown kids, just people in general that need to see people that look like them or they can relate to know that it's possible. Creatives that you can make a living being a creative. You can do things that are different, and you just have to be in line with what you're supposed to do on earth. And it takes time to figure that out. It truly, requires you like tapping in and being honest with yourself. I just told like some of my coaching clients this past week that like all you can do is trust that you're going to be as honest as possible to yourself. That's all you can do. If you can at least count on yourself that you're going to do that, then you're one step closer to being your truest self. And so if you go to the next slide, what you all can do is you can show up. You can invest in us, Asian American, Pacific Islanders, people of color, minorities, women. You can hire us, you can support us, you can show up to our events. We need to all listen to our stories. We need to listen to each other's ideas. We need to speak up when we see some shit, right? Like, there's no more like laughing at like black jokes or like, that kind of stuff. It's old, right? And look at your circle. I was looking at some data because me and my sister were talking about this. It's 7% of the US population is Asian. 2% of the US population is South Asian. And so look at your company, like look at your circle, look at your IG feed. If you work for a company that serves the general market, like shouldn't our our employees look like that, right? Like, shouldn't it be reflective of our community? But it's not be about like checking off a box, and try not to like generalize, right? Like I said, I can only tell Shireen Moneymullah's story. I can't represent the Indian American. I can't represent anyone except myself. And I just hope we can all just tap into what feels good, tap into what makes us happy. And that is really like a big part of showing up for who you are. And so the next slide has a video, but like I don't know if it's gonna play, so I don't want it to be like choppy. But I just want you all to like believe this shit, that you're a badass and you're making your dreams come true. Like, I'm not even trying to be on some cliche shit. Like, that's just what I just hope that people that interact with me feel, that like they can confidently say. And this video is basically me and my husband, like we like did a little beatbox thing. Let's see if it works.
Do you want to play it?
Yeah, let's try. No, it's choppy, but it's me being like, yeah, I'm a badass bitch, make my dreams come true. And so I'm gonna record it and have it on Spotify. But if you go to the next slide, hit me up. If you follow me, I would love for you to send me an intro video if we don't know each other. I try to do that whenever someone starts following me, or a voice message. And if you learn something, definitely let me know. I would love to chat. I love connecting. Let's use social media to be social. If anyone wants to share their handle on the chat, let's like connect with each other. And yeah, I think it's important for us to link up and continue to create and go into these kinds of situations, and how we can connect with like-minded people and see what's possible. Because everyone in this chat that's like here for me personally, they're dope people. And then everyone that came through like with what's it called, with 42nd Parallel and TCG Collective, like they're amazing people, right? And so let's all link up. LinkedIn, Instagram, my brother's about it. Link up. I think do we have any time for questions? I'm sorry, I went over a little bit over.
Yeah, we can take a few minutes for questions.
Okay.
If anybody, you guys could unmute, or if you want to throw it in the chat, I can verbally ask too.
I think you guys should unmute, and then if anybody wants to give me a DJ horn, y'all can give me a DJ horn.
I don't have the app.
No, I'm totally joking, Mina. My husband would have been he would have cued the DJ horn, but I think he's setting up for a prom. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, don't totally reach out to me. I'm always just down to connect and ask. Pew pew pew. Yes, Henna, I love it. Yes, all these Instagrams. Let's all link up. Um, and so I want to comment on my fit right now. So I'm wearing my husband's brand, Illest, and I'm wearing an upside down smiley hat. And I was like, is this extra? That is a part of this journey, y'all. Like me questioning if this is extra and then being like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Like just accept yourself as is, and that's enough, and that's all you got, right? Cool. I'm gonna definitely follow you all, or if you don't mind just sending me a follow, that would be easier, and then I can definitely send you all a message. But Mina, are we recording this? Because I know there's definitely people that would love to see it. Cool.
Yeah, Linda's recording it, so we'll have it. We can send it over.
Perfect. I think we're good then. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you for sharing your story. So nobody has any questions before we hop off. I know we're all connecting, but
Yes.
just want to open the floor for a few minutes for anybody who does want to ask any questions.
Yeah, or if you just want to unmute and say something. Or just,
Hey, my phone's jumping. This is Freddie. I'm
hi, Freddie.
the owner of TCG.
Oh,
One of the
nice.
two
Nice
owners.
to meet you.
Yeah, and I'm glad I caught this 10 minutes in. I'm in Puerto Rico, but I raced home because I can't get any phone signal. I raced to the hotel and I
Thank
caught
you for racing
15
home.
minutes of it. And it was
Well,
dope.
Freddie,
Yes, for sure. Thanks for doing this for us. I just wanted to thank you.
Yeah,
So,
of course. Thank you for having me.
for sure.
Freddie, are you from Chicago?
I am born and raised. Yep, Southsider.
Are you just visiting Puerto Rico?
I am. Yep. I haven't been here in over 21 years,
Nice.
and I'm taking my family. I'm doing the family tour right now.
Yay, I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. Do you want to share a little bit about 42nd Parallel?
I think probably Nancy's the best, but for
Okay.
TCG, we've been in the experiential marketing, production, general marketing business for like 11 years.
Dope.
And, 42nd Parallel is one of, it's a division that we formed. I think we're coming on 2 years in October. Nancy and Nina were kind of the people that drove that. Here we are having fabulous people like yourself do a session.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate you.
Very proud of it. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Oh, I love it. Thank you all so much. Cool.
I did want to ask about those arrests. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, "How did you get arrested?"
Oh yeah, I had to say, I know. That was not intentional to not include that. I was how many of us were notorious like shoplifters? Yes, many of us. And then I got scared shitless when I got arrested. And then I was like, my dad really came through for me. Like I'm a name that, my privilege. My dad told me he would get me a lawyer. First of all, I was in a position to call my friends to scrounge up the money. I was 17, so thankfully I didn't have to call my parents. My friends were able to scrounge up the $150 to bail me out. I was able to like hide it from my dad, even though I was like flying out to New York that day to see my boyfriend at 17 years old. My dad was my parents are saints. They truly are. They were just letting me be me, disciplining me sometimes, taking things away from me. Like I remember they unplugged my car at one point because they were like, yo, you're not going anywhere. Like stop taking the car at 2 a.m. thinking you're this bad. No, you're 16, sit your ass down. I have made this huge life transformation and I'm just so thankful. And it's my parents just they knew I was gonna come around. I think it's the faith of God. And things came around and I realized that this wasn't cute anymore. So yeah. And so my dad he went for me the second day and where the store was supposed to be at the court, and I didn't go because I was too scared, and my dad showed up and they didn't show up and it was dropped. So I have nothing on my record, and it literally changed my life. I've never stolen a
awesome.
record.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that story.
Of course. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Lily, for asking. Oh yeah, Jane's featuring me in her Jane Network News, and she is all about the networking. Yes, I have gotten all of my opportunities either through networking or asking for it myself, just cold emailing people. I send IG DM videos all the time, and either people think it's weird or they don't open it, or they find it very personable. So I count on the people that find it personable.
And I want to tell everybody that I am thrilled to know Shireen. I remember exactly where she sat in school, and I followed, she's like a little bouncing ball. I have followed every one of her little booms and booms and booms around. And you all must be so proud to be a friend of hers, but also the fact that you all have wonderful stories to tell. So anytime you want to connect with me, you just do that. In my world, I'm always nice. I always talk to people, and you never know. And Shireen, my son, lives in the western suburbs now, and I fear for anybody that's ever been arrested in DuPage County. I think they're all crooks. But anyway, I've never been arrested, not yet. But anyway, you can all connect with me. And I was sitting on an airplane going to my best friend's 70th birthday party last year, and I sat next to the founders of Curl Mix.
Tim and Kim.
And Tim and Kim, and they went to school together. And so the fact that you're connected to them, that is really hilarious. I mean, that's great, because I want to talk to them. They wanted to hire me, but they got busy, and I think they have 2 kids now. I can't remember.
Yes, they were on Shark Tank, y'all. So
I know. And then they turned them down.
My photo was used in their Shark Tank pitch.
And don't think that you should just watch Shark Tank. And if you want to go on Shark Tank, go on Shark Tank. If you want to meet someone, figure out how to reach out and meet them. Don't ever think anybody is above you, below you, or beneath you.
Yep.
We're all in this world together. So I just want you to be nice. And I want to just do a PS. I would always tell my students, I only have a couple thousand of them, but I would always tell them never to be a wedding planner. So, I mean, so once you've done it, that's great. But, be your own wedding planner, save that money, and go on a trip. So, travel, get a passport, be nice, and connect with all of you. And if you need a job or you need to connect with me, Shireen will do that. I'm trying to be on Twitter. I need a class. So that's all I'm going to say. And I'm glad I was here.
Thank you, Jane.
And I wasn't even drinking. At least I didn't drink in class. And Mina, I love you. I remember Mina. I mean, I remember my students. And they remember.
I was a freshman, and I graduated in 2018. I done got my master's now, so I had Jane when I was still very, very quiet. So that was my first real event experience.
What did I make you do for our final exam?
We had an event at, what is it, Kroll's? Is that what it's called? Kroll's Southwood?
From the Heart, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a fundraiser. So that was super. I think I was like one of the youngest in class at the time too. So that was an eye opener for me. But
it was an eye opener because why?
It was just like the first time I ever had to like help with like an event like that. It wasn't even a big event, but like a real like event. I was like, oh, I'm like, this is fun. And then it went from there. And it's funny because I met Freddie, who's my boss at Columbia too. He was a judge for Gina Valentine's like marketing class.
Oh, Gina was in our class.
Yeah, so I actually got the job meeting him 2 years prior. So shout out to Columbia.
Shout out.
Well, yeah. They're not offering my class anymore, which is sad. But anyway, but Shireen, everybody meets people. You meet people at Chicago Marathon. You meet people if you want to be a volunteer. You meet people if you want to carry somebody's instruments around. And don't be a douche. Okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be talking like that. Because if you're an asshole, nobody wants to be around you.
No.
And so it doesn't cost you anything to be nice, and it doesn't cost you anything to give back and thank somebody. And
Yes, I'm with you, Jane.
yeah, are you with me on that? Yeah, because it's just like it's like life's too short to waste your time with nasty ass people. Okay, why am I getting on that bent today? But anyway, so but it's all like that. Yep. So spread the love.
Spread the love. I love it. I feel like that's a good way to close it, Mina.
Right. We're all good. Definitely everybody connect with each other. If you didn't grab the everybody's Instagram, but thank you again, Shireen, for hopping on for this amazing talk. We're definitely gonna connect, again afterwards for anything else. But thank you everybody else for hopping on.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you all.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.